Kring jord som soln förlät, skuggorna ruva. Drömmar med vingesus under oss sia. Tänd dina vita ljus, Sankta Lucia. Trollsejd och mörkermakt, ljusstupet vingar, signade lågors vakt, skydd åt oss bringar. Drömmar med vingesus under oss sia. Tänd dina vita ljus, Sankta Lucia. Stjärnor som leda oss vägen att finna, bli dina klara blås, fagra prästinna. Drömmar med vingesus under oss sia. Tänd dina vita ljus, Sankta Lucia. Drömmar med vingesus under oss sia. Tänd dina vita ljus, Sankta Lucia.
Good morning. Welcome, I'm Josh Coyote, today's worship associate for our December 17th, 2023 service. Welcome this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community. I have a few announcements to start with. We're taking donations on our sanctuary Christmas tree for warm clothing items such as socks, gloves, and coats, and durable food items. And if you bring your items to help decorate that next week. The next week's service will be December 24th, will be Let Us Remember the Shepherds. It will be at 10:30 a.m. We will not be having, that will be the only service that day. Philosophical Society is this Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. in the Snake River Room. And we'll just be having a retrospective, so no new reading. And we'll have joys, sorrows, and concerns after Time for All Ages. There's a basket over there to put them in, to fill them out and put them in if you want to have one for that time. If you're online, put them in the chat box and mark it as a joy, concern, or sorrow so that we can read it at that time. And I think that's all our announcements. So let us move on to the Peace Bowl. As I ring the Peace Bowl 3 times, let us take deep breaths and relax so we can move into worship. For this moment in time, let go of your anxieties, fears, and worries. Be in this moment. We will now read our church covenant. It is printed in the order of service, so if you like to, feel free to read it along with us. Love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We will now be lighting our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is the poem The Solstice Teaches Us by David Breeden. The solstices teach us that darkness comes, that darkness goes. The solstices teach us that light comes, that light goes. The solstices teach us calmly, silently, to be calm, silent, learning. The solstices teach us, as we circle the sun, that everything flies. The solstices teach us to remember the dark, to remember the light, to remember time, the seasons, and love as we circle the sun. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 226, People Look East.
People look east, the time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able. Trim the hearth and set the table. People look east and sing today. Love the guest is on the way. Furrows be glad, the worthy spare. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish, that in course the flower may flourish. People look east and sing today. Love the rose is on the way. Stars keep the watch when night is dim. One more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. People look east and sing today. Love the star is on the way.
All right, good morning. We have the story of Gloskomba and the Snowbird. It is an Abnaki story by Abnaki storytellers Joseph Bruchak and his son Jesse. Long ago, there was a hard winter. It was hard for the people to get out of their wigwams or find food, even on snowshoes. It was hard. So the people called Gloskomba, the one who helps the people. Gloskomba came to the village. As a giant, he could walk through the deep snow. With him was Skunk, who traveled with him and helped him. Now in those days, Skunk's coat was white and beautiful. If the snow does not stop, the people said, we will all die. I will talk to Snowbird, Gloskomba said. He started toward the mountain where Snowbird stands. Skunk followed behind. The snow was deep, and Skunk had to jump from one of Gluscumba's footprints to the other. By the time they got to Snowbird's mountain, Skunk was almost frozen. Gluscumba climbed to where Snowbird stood. The heavy snow fell from his wings. "My friend," Gluscumba said, "you must close your wings." Gluscumba held up a ball of rawhide string. "If you do not close your wings, I will tie them with this string." "I will do as you ask," Snowbird said. It closed its wings, and the snow stopped falling. As they walked back to the village, Skunk saw another bird high atop another mountain. Light came from its wings. "What bird is that?" Skunk asked. "That is Day Eagle," Gluscumba said. "When its wings are open, there's light." They got back to the village, and most of the snow had melted away. The people thanked Gluscumba. No one thanked Skunk. Even though it had been hard for him to make that journey, everyone had forgotten him. Skunk became angry. "I will do something to make them remember me," he said. That night, Skunk sneaked away. He took with him the ball of rawhide string. He went to the mountain where Day Eagle stood, and he tied Day Eagle's wings shut with many, many knots. When the next day came, there was no light, and the people became afraid. "Where is the light?" they cried. In the dark, Gluscumba made his way to Day Eagle's mountain. He tried to untie Day Eagle, but Skunk had made so many knots, Gluscumba could free one wing. And that is why, to this day, only half the world can be light at any time. Now, who did this? Gluscumba thought. Then he saw the tracks of Skunk. He followed them all the way down the mountain, back to the place where Skunk pretended to be asleep. "I know what you did, and it was wrong," Gluscumba said. He emptied his pipe on Skunk. It made Skunk smelly and turned his beautiful white coat black. Then Gluscumba ran his fingers down Skunk's back to make white stripes to remind him what his coat looked like before he did the bad thing. So Skunk became as he is today. Now, no one likes to stink. So Skunk tried to wipe the scent off on the grasses, making them smelly too. But Gluscumba breathed on the grasses, making them smell sweet. And that is how sweetgrass came to be. We will now sing up our child.
This is a very special time in our congregation where each of us has an opportunity to share major events in our lives, our joys, our concerns, and our sorrows, so we can all be uplifted by the UU community. As I read these that have been given to us, the minister will light a candle. A joy from Courtney Higley. Today is my quit day for smoking. I'm excited to have a new path without that habit. And also, some angels asked if we needed help, and I'm happy to report that we have needs and some wants for harmony. A true blessing because we've had a hard year altogether. Courtney Higley is so grateful. Kat wanted to greet and welcome Tara, Julie, Marcia, and Callie. A joy from Kat. She loved making all the delicious soups for this cold weather, and she gets a break from work starting this Friday until the 7th. A joy from Victoria. The Idaho Falls Symphony was fabulous last night. Mariachi music was so fun, and we sang Christmas carols. A concern from Victoria. She's concerned that the city is stopping some of its recycling programs, but Western Recycling will still continue its recycling. And any online? Okay. We light one more candle for all those sorrows, concerns, and joys that we hold in our hearts and are not ready to share at this time. Know we lift up our love for you, and we are all in this together.
Our reading this morning is the poem Snowy Night by Mary Oliver. Last night an owl in the blue dark tossed an indeterminate number of carefully shaped sounds into the world in which, a quarter of a mile away, I happened to be standing. I couldn't tell which one it was, the bard or the great horned ship of the air. It was that distant. But anyway, aren't there moments that are better than knowing something and sweeter? Snow was falling so much like stars, filling the dark trees, that one could easily imagine its reason for being was nothing more than prettiness. I suppose if this were someone else's story, they would have insisted on knowing whatever is knowable, would have hurried over the fields to name it, the owl, I mean. But it's mine, this poem of the night, and I just stood there, listening and holding out my hands to the soft glitter falling through the air. I love this world, but not for its answers. And I wish good luck to the owl, whatever its name. And I wish great welcome to the snow, whatever its severe and comfortless and beautiful meaning. An offering to support the mission of this church will now be given and gratefully received. Each year, by definition, our Earth completes another orbital journey around the sun. But when that annual journey officially begins and ends has always been culturally determined. It is a roughly circular orbit after all, which, with our current mean distance from the sun being around 150 million kilometers, means it is a journey of about 940 million kilometers. Every year, we all travel 940 million kilometers around the sun on our blue boat home. No wonder I feel so tired. And though we celebrate January 1st as New Year's Day, according to the Gregorian calendar in use in most parts of the world today, there are calendars now and in the past, and other days have been chosen to mark the beginning of the year for various reasons. In the Chinese lunisolar calendar, for example, the next new year begins February 10th, 2024. And before Julius Caesar, the Romans celebrated March 1st as the beginning of the new year. But if it were up to me, I would choose the winter solstice as the official transition point from one year to the next. Like the summer solstice and the spring and fall equinox, the arrival of the winter solstice holiday can be precisely predicted by astrophysics, varying slightly from year to year. The rational religious naturalist in me finds this very appealing. No need for debating the dates or circumstances of largely mythical stories. And since it is a day in the northern hemisphere when the darkness of night is at its maximum and the light of day begins to grow longer, it has great symbolic value we can associate with new beginnings. A similar argument could be made for the spring equinox, since it marks the time of new life springing forth. But my vote for the turning of the year would still be for the winter solstice. There is real and metaphorical significance to these natural solar holidays. The winter solstice this year occurs in just a few days from now, on Thursday, December 21st, at 8:27 p.m. Mountain Time. In the Northern Hemisphere, it marks the point in Earth's annual journey when the North Pole reaches its maximum tilt away from the sun, giving us the longest day and the longest night and the shortest day of the year. The Earth has revolved around the sun for billions of years, of course, but it is only recently in Earth's history, say in the last 100,000 years or so, that a creature evolved enough to notice the occasion of the winter solstice and appreciate its significance. We don't know exactly when, but at some point, some of our ancient ancestors devised a means to note the changing daylight, watching the sun rise and set, and discovered the annual cycle of lengthening and shortening days throughout the seasons. And much later, we learn that the rising and setting sun is an illusion, that our planet's daily rotation on its axis is why there is day and night. Before we made this discovery, people around the world imagined all sorts of stories to explain this daily phenomenon, usually involving spirits or deities who sometimes required great sacrifices to assure their continual blessing. This is understandable, since the importance of sunlight for life was obvious, and the darkness could bring a host of terrors each night. Things that go bump in the night were sometimes all too scary. There are plenty of nocturnal predators with superior night vision, strength, agility, and big teeth and claws. We big-brained primates may have evolved to have cleverness on our side, but try explaining that to a big cat or grizzly on his nightly prowl. And as our ancestors moved into cooler northern climates, the contrast between the cold months and the warm months of the year became more pronounced. Knowing when the longest night would arrive and performing rituals to make sure the days would lengthen once again was likely among the first religious occasions observed by human beings. And after we developed agriculture, knowledge of the seasons became even more important. The winter solstice has been a very big deal for a very long time, and it seems right that we should continue to celebrate it in modern times. To be true to the spirit of the solstice, we should probably meet Thursday night after sundown in some forest clearing and build a bonfire to honor the life-giving light of the sun. But it's pretty cold at night, so we have instead dedicated this Sunday worship service to the winter solstice, safe and warm in our sanctuary. Maybe you can light a candle or something at 8:27 Thursday night and say a short prayer of gratitude. It would be a great opportunity to practice some of those hygge ideas I spoke about a few weeks ago. We would not exist without the light of the sun, and nor would any of the plants and animals we depend on for life. And if our Mother Earth were not revolving around our sun at the distance she is, what has been called the Goldilocks zone, our planet would not be suitable for life as we know it. We would have no liquid water or the breathable atmosphere that has evolved within our moderate temperature range, things we largely take for granted. Many ancient peoples recognized this better than we do, and they routinely gave thanks for the gifts of the earth and the sun we receive. It is true that the light of the sun is critically important, but the solstice is a time to celebrate the dark as well as the light. As the poet Stephanie Noble writes in her poem In Celebration of the Winter Solstice, "Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depth of that very darkness comes a first glimpse of our own light, the pure inner light of love and knowing. So do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness, here and now, a time of richness, a time of joy." Unfortunately, darkness has a bad reputation that is often associated with evil and malevolence. Dark-skinned people have even suffered because of this association at times. There are good reasons why we humans evolved to fear the dark when our senses are limited and those nocturnal predators make their rounds. But most of the time, our fears are unwarranted. If anything, there is too much light in modern times driving away the darkness, but also blinding us to the full beauty of star-filled night skies, unless we seek out places far from city lights. Looking at the heavens on a clear, cold night in a dark place can be a dizzying experience of awe and wonder. The cold, dry air on a calm winter night allows the light from distant stars to be more visible and less perturbed as it reaches our retinas after traveling unimaginable distances for an incredibly long time. A magical, individual experience of an ancient past. And of course, regular cycles of darkness and light are essential to our well-being and that of countless other creatures. It is good that we should celebrate both the darkness and the light. We have plenty of historical and archaeological evidence that the winter solstice has been spiritually important to people around the globe from the earliest days of religion. The ancient Celts, for example, imagined the year as a battle between the Holly King of the colder months and the Oak King of the warmer months. The winter solstice marked the zenith of the Holly King's power, which immediately began to wane until the Oak King prevailed at the summer solstice, and the endless cycle was repeated. And 5,000 years ago, in the region of modern Iran, they celebrated the winter solstice in an ancient pre-Zoroastrian festival called Shab el-Yalda, which means night of birth. It celebrated the triumph of the sun god Mithra over darkness and evil spirits. It is still celebrated today by modern Zoroastrians, with people gathering to burn fires, enjoying festive foods, and reading poetry, sometimes remaining awake all night to greet the dawn. And in China, the winter solstice is called Dongzhi, which means winter arrives. It is believed to be based on an ancient harvest festival, but in modern times it has become a time for family gatherings to celebrate the previous year and to eat special rice balls and dumplings. A similar festival called Toji is celebrated in Japan, marking the harvest with bonfires on Mount Fuji and other places. Among Native Americans, the winter solstice was a time for storytelling, dancing, and rituals to ensure survival in the cold months to come. It was especially important as a religious holiday for the Zuni and Hopi peoples of the Southwest, who designated a sun priest known as Pequin for the Zuni, who would watch for the exact moment of dawn and announce the rebirth of the sun. At that moment, the celebration would begin with dancing, fires, and feasting for the next 4 days. Among Mesoamerican and South American indigenous tribes, it was also an important occasion, though below the equator, the winter solstice would be celebrated in June. It is important not to ignore our northern hemisphere bias and remember that for half the world, the winter and summer solstices are reversed compared to our own. Over the centuries, cultures evolve and religions are no exception. Different peoples encountered one another and shared their stories and traditions. Sometimes the clash of cultures turned violent, and one group's culture and spirituality supplanted another's. But in many cases, something new emerged over time, a blending of beliefs and practices, sometimes reimagining older gods with newer ones, and reinterpreting the meaning of religious rituals. You can easily see this in the St. Lucia tradition in Scandinavian countries, as you saw in the video this morning. The story of St. Lucia is a great example of reimagined folklore. The legend of the Italian St. Lucia of Syracuse, who died in the year 304, was likely brought to Scandinavia by Christian missionaries in the early Middle Ages. As one of the earliest venerated saints, she was celebrated across Europe as early as the 6th century. Her feast day on December 13th reflects the old date of the winter solstice in the Julian calendar, which was replaced by the reformed Gregorian calendar in the 16th century. The story of a young girl bringing light in the darkness of winter quickly became popular in the Nordic countries, where the winter nights are especially long. And some believe this was because she represented a Christian reimagining of the Norse god Freya. The special foods now associated with Lucia Day in Scandinavia appear to reflect an ancient pagan custom of morning feasting after the fearful longest night. She has been transformed into some kind of goddess of the winter solstice. And of course, this exchange between pagan and Christian practices went both ways. The most obvious examples are the timing of the Christmas holiday near that of the winter solstice, and the popular Roman festival known as Saturnalia, and the practice of decorating our homes with mistletoe, evergreen boughs, and trees for Christmas, which has ancient associations with the solstice across Northern Europe. And in Scandinavia, the burning of a Yule log is still celebrated by some. The original Yule logs were enormous and sometimes burned for 12 days. And the Yule feast would be celebrated until the log burned out. At this time of year, I often see people complaining on social media about how the Christians somehow stole these holiday traditions from the pagans. But in reality, it was a kind of natural cultural exchange and evolution that has given us the great cumulative religious traditions and holidays of today, including Unitarian Universalism. Everything we celebrate these days has origins in the past or has been creatively inspired by other traditions, even Chalaka, for those familiar with this attempt at a new Unitarian Universalist winter holiday. See me afterwards if you want more information. The winter solstice invites us to celebrate the night, the light, and the darkness, real and metaphorical. Our lives are filled with and depend on both. I love the Christmas holiday traditions, and I also find the winter solstice offers unique ways to connect to the natural world in a meaningful way during this season of cold. Rediscovering or reimagining rituals to celebrate the natural solar holidays acknowledges our place within the interdependent web of all existence and the rhythms and cycles of nature. And it reconnects us with all the generations who came before us. And at least in part, these are holidays that should be celebrated outside in nature, if possible. Winter solstice is probably the most challenging in this regard for those of us who live in colder climates. But even so, a little time in the cold helps you truly appreciate the warmth. This is also a great time to rest and embrace the quiet. I have always enjoyed the quiet contemplation that can be found on a walk in the winter woods, especially after dark. Like Robert Frost says in his poem, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake." Winter reminds us to make time to rest and reflect, to let our weary souls lie fallow for a time like the fields around us. So friends, let us celebrate this time of winter solstice in whatever way brings you joy. This is a season for gratitude and the company of those we cherish. May you stay safe, healthy, and warm in the cold nights to come, knowing that the days will soon begin to lengthen and spring will return. Blessed be. I invite you once again to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 235, "Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly."
Deck the hall with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Trow the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, fa la 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 la. Hail the new year, lads and lasses, fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Our closing words is the poem "It Is Our Quiet Time" by Nancy Wood. It is our quiet time. We do not speak because the voices are within us. It is our quiet time. We do not walk because the earth is all within us. It is our quiet time. We do not dance because the music has lifted us to a place where the Spirit is. It is our quiet time. We rest with all of nature. We wake when the seven sisters wake. We greet them in the sky over the opening of the kiva.
We will now extinguish the chalice with the following words. They're written in the order of your service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.